nice over there.
Okay. The Hinckley Institute of Politics is a nonpartisan institute at the U. Why is that
And then,
right?
are you going to explain how the question works, or do I have to do that?
No, I can take care of it.
Okay.
I'm just. Excuse me. Actually, yeah, I'll probably have you do that.
Okay.
I'll just say, like,
Yeah.
welcome everyone, thank you for being here, all that stuff. Maybe you throw in an anecdote or something.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. I'll
Jake, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't think it works. There's probably not batteries in it.
But yeah, I was gonna say, I'll just do like the intro, and then I'll have you explain how the format of the questions work, and then I'll read 1 and 3. You can read 2 and 4.
Okay.
It'll be pretty easy. And at the end, I'll say the concluding remarks.
We're not gonna have to repeat the questions again, right? They're gonna remember, right?
I would hope our future presidency remembers the questions.
Hi all, welcome. We'll get started in a few minutes here, but while we wait, if you don't know, there's some pizza right outside, basically on the other side of this wall, so go grab some if you would like, and come grab your seats. But yeah, we've got a few minutes still.
What did you say? I overheard you guys talk about ROTC people.
Oh gosh, don't get me started.
What did
Do you know the guys that were tabling today?
There was people tabling today?
Yeah.
In
So,
what branch?
I don't know. The one with the planes.
The one with the planes?
Yeah.
As in like Air Force?
Sounds about right. And then I think the Army, so they were set up next to each other. Me and my buddy Josh, we walked over to get some donuts, right? And they were like, oh, how many push-ups can you do? And they're like, oh, I don't know, not too many. How many do you need us to do so we can get donuts? And they're like, oh, you need to do 60-some push-ups. And we were like,
That's a lie. None of us can do 60 push-ups.
yeah, exactly. So he turned, Josh.
Y'all do them.
You guys are so cute.
The handshakes are so funny. I feel like so old. I'm like, hey guys, hey girls. I was like, I can say that.
So, you're free to share and have microphones. Our introducer is going to use it to start, and then they will hand it off. So don't be alarmed if you don't have it off the bat. This is yours, and then this one, we'll give it to you as well. So I'll turn it off, but when it's time to start, just flip it up. Yes. How's it going? You're welcome. The same goes to you. Okay. So with that, we're ready. We can go ahead. get started. Great. That work? Yeah, wonderful. Okay, Julia, whenever you're ready, and live stream is
Perfect.
going. So.
Oh, okay, perfect. Awesome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Hinckley Institute of Politics Forum. The Hinckley Institute of Politics is a nonpartisan institute at the University of Utah. The Hinckley provides an array of transformative experiences for students through internships, forums, and classes. Hinckley forums seek to foster public discourse and civil debates on the most current and pressing issues, bringing in local, national, and international thought leaders. Today, the Hinckley Institute is proud to host an ASUU Presidential Town Hall, where you will hear from the 3 tickets vying to represent you. I will now turn it over to our moderator.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Seeing some new faces here, which is great. My name is Jacob. I'm the ASUU Elections Director this year. And I'd just like to take a few minutes and thank all of our candidates here for showing up today, and as well as our partners over at the Hinckley Institute for allowing us to use their space and their time. We are very, very fortunate and very grateful for that opportunity. I'm now going to hand it over to Catherine, who will explain the format and structure of the town hall today. And if there are any questions before we get started, happy to answer those. If not, we'll dive right in.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So each ticket will be asked 4 questions, and they'll have 3 minutes to answer each question. Anyone part of the ticket can answer the question.
We good? All righty. That's better. Question 1. What initiatives would you like to start? And then we'll start with, Karabegovich, VKW, and then O'Leary, if that's all right with you all. Yeah, whenever you're ready.
First, we'll just introduce ourselves. My name is Sven. I'm a junior studying political science and international studies. I'm a first-generation Bosnian American student.
My name is Edward Hassan. I'm a junior here at the University of Utah. I'm a first-gen Black African American student from Egypt. I'm currently studying right now finance and entrepreneurship and minoring in information system. I'm running for your VP of University Relation.
Okay, and then I'm Alicia. I'm a third-year student here, majoring in QAMA with an emphasis in operations and supply chain. And yeah, that's our ticket, and we'll just hop into our initiatives. So we have built our campaign around 3 main pillars, which are sustainability, safety, and campus life/community. So within the safety pillar, we have things like implementing a 3-digit hotline that connects students to a dispatcher of sorts, where they can be either connected to campus security or mental health resources like MH1, or a basic need like something like a financial wellness center or the Fiji pantry. The idea here is that you aren't just having to directly talk to the police if that is not what you want to do. Second, we would like to do an evaluation of campus lighting. Okay. Yeah, we want to do an evaluation of campus lighting. And so every semester there is not every semester, every year, administration does a walk around campus and they identify problem areas with lights, but we want to implement students into this walk since they are the ones who ultimately are on campus every single day experiencing the issues with lighting. And then moving to sustainability, we have a 3-part program that does education, action, and growth. Education for us means implementing a recycling course that you have to do with your community standards. your community stance courses at the beginning of every single school year, and so that is going to teach you what you can and can't recycle on campus and what that looks like. And then action from there is implementing sort of infographics around campus, specifically above your recycling bins, that sort of retains this knowledge of, oh, can I recycle this if it has food still in it, or is this a plastic 2 or 3 bottle? Does it need to be recycled, or does it need to go into the landfill bin? And sort of just like continuously building on this education that we laid a foundation for in this virtual course. And then from there, it means also sort of highlighting the initiatives that already exist. So this means like marketing initiatives like Recycle Rice Eccles, getting students involved in that programs to identify recyclable items at at home games, since this is such an opportunity where so much waste is put out into the earth, that we want to combat it right from the beginning. And then from an actions perspective, from a growth perspective, this means urging the campus to commit to long-term goals and really pushing those forward. Already, we are pushing towards lowering our carbon footprint by 2040, but we want to continue to have these initiatives put in. And then from a campus life perspective, we want to do the implementation of contraceptive vending machines in your residence halls, so things like having access to dental dams, condoms, and whatnot right at the first floor of your building. And so you sort of you can mitigate the stress of having to go to the front desk and asking someone for a condom, or waiting 24 hours to get a pleasure pack. And then also we want to highlight underrepresented groups. So this means creating new council for military-connected students, transfer students, and finding ways to reach out to our affinity groups and making sure that they aren't programming on their own.
Should we just jump into it, Jake?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So first and foremost, we are the VKW ticket. I'm Ravi Carr. I use the she, her pronouns. I'm a second year studying political science, and I'm running as your Vice President of University Relations.
Hello, everyone. My name is Giovanni Valdez. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a third year student studying Strat Common Marketing at the U, and I'm running for VP of Student Relations.
Hi, y'all. I'm Muskan. I'm a third-year student here at the U studying math and philosophy, and I use the she, her pronouns. Like Ravi mentioned, we're the VKW ticket, which is really weird. All of our last names are on the ticket, which really is embodying our belief that this doesn't get done by one person and one person's last name on a ticket, but a community of people. So we are running on the platform of making space for you. And this was really created because folks on our campus and in our community have made space for our identities and our ideas and our experiences. And what's really unique is that SPACE is actually an acronym, and that's where sort of our initiatives come. So S stands for social engagement, P stands for progress safety, A stands for amplify current initiatives, C stands for create streamlined ASUU processes, and E stands for equitable learning and living. So delving into sort of each of these things, for social engagement, we're really going to push for Democracy Day, or Day of Civic Service, so making voting day an official university holiday. We're also going to push for a skate space, and this is built off of work that I'm already doing with the president of the skate club to build a skate space for skateboarders to gather on campus. For progress safety, we're really pushing for assessing safety holistically and building infrastructure that prioritizes peer intervention, wellness, accountability, and transparency. So we will be working on mandating wellness checks for second-year students. We'll be working on standardizing the threat assessment team to make safety more proactive rather than reactive. We'll also be exploring a mental health and legal services voucher through ASUU. And then we will be creating a victims or survivors bill of rights with comprehensive information about accommodations and Title IX processes, et cetera. For amplifying current initiatives, this is really where we're looking at diversity programming here on campus to really center marginalized identities. So we'll be working on committing a portion of our campus events budget to co-collaborating and co-sponsoring events with these affinity groups. We'll also be hosting monthly mixers where we'll highlight a group and talk about building solidarity in marginalized communities. And then we'll also be working, so I worked on free printing here on campus and the free menstrual products, and so we'll be institutionalizing that free printing. For creating streamlined ASU processes, the big thing is sort of building an inventory of past student leaders' work, right? We don't know what past student leaders have done, so creating sort of a history or an archive, and then really focusing on a shared governance model, so redistributing that decision-making power so it's not just on one person. For equitable learning and living, we'll be pushing for an academic forgiveness policy based on other public institutions like UC Berkeley and UCLA. We will also be executing an accessibility audit that doesn't just look at the physical landscape, but also looks at the social and cultural norms of disability on campus. We'll also be working with library services to increase the amount of technology rental availability. We're in conversation right now trying to build partnerships with ASUU and figuring out unique funding partnerships. We'll also be establishing a graduate student assembly. So this is something I'm currently working on, is building a forum for students, graduate students specifically, and giving them a platform to sort of voice their concerns to upper administration about wages, living conditions, stipends, et cetera. And then we'll also be advocating for opportunities like the Union Fellowship Program and other campus entities like HRE to support students who have undocumented, documented status or are from mixed families. So those are sort of our big key things in each of the categories in space.
To go?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Cool. Okay. Hey guys, I'm Parker Matson. I'm a junior. I'm studying economics, and I'm running to be your vice president of student relations.
Hey everybody, my name is Jack O'Leary. I use the he/him pronouns. I am a junior here at the U studying economics and political science.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe. I'm running to be your Vice President of University Relations. I use she, her pronouns. And I just want to let you guys know, I do have to leave like a little bit early because I have a track commitment. I'm on the track team here. I just want to let you guys know, so.
Yeah, and I can let Parker start.
Sure. So I'll dive into some of the initiatives we're looking to start. First and foremost, I want to address the Multicultural Center. So this is something that I think we really need to clarify and distinguish what it is and what it isn't, and what we're advocating for and what we're not advocating for. So what we're not advocating for is the abolishment of the current cultural centers that exist across campus or are going to exist. We want these centers to continue existing and continue to be providing the safe space that they do. What this is for those students who are extremely underrepresented and whose voices aren't loud enough to get their own center. For example, we've talked to many members of the Jewish community that feel that they might not be able to get their own center. And it's not that we're against that. I would love for them to be able to have their own center. It's just their voices might not be loud enough. So this multicultural center is meant to consolidate all these different communities whose voices might not be loud enough to get their own center, and it's for them. Another program that we're looking to start is a 1-credit student orientation course. So when you guys are going through orientation, it feels like all this information is fire hose at you. You don't really retain any of it. We want to make it so that students can take a 1-credit orientation course throughout their first semester, and they'll actually be able to retain the information that's thrown at them. This already exists within the Honors College. We want to make it available to everybody so that there's not a barrier to entry for students who don't belong to the Honors College. But yeah, Jack?
Thanks, Parker. A couple things. One, we know that parking and public transit is a really big issue on this campus. As we continue to grow, move to that 40,000 student enrollment number, it's going to continue to be a problem. Just next week, it's really exciting. We're hosting one of the NBA All-Star games. Unfortunately, with that, the business school parking, Calvert Village parking, a number of other areas are being taken away for about 5 days. So all of those students that normally park there, students that commute there, are now going to have to park in other places around campus in a place that's already difficult. One way how we want to address this, we want to implement a live parking system so that with sensors and cameras that you can go online and you can see what parking lots are full and which aren't. So that way, when you're coming to campus, you know where you can go and try to alleviate that stress and alleviate that confusion. With that, we also want to increase accessibility to parking by adding more U after 3 spots and by trying to work with parking enforcement and commuter services to make ticketing. Right now, a lot of in other public parking spaces like the library, commuter service tickets until 10 p.m. We want to try to make that 8 p.m. It's 8 p.m. at other spots on campus. We just kind of want to consolidate that everywhere so it's the same, as well as that it's more fair for students. We understand that faculty and staff are here on campus as well, and other groups are coming on campus for events. We want to make sure that everybody has access, and that at that time, campus is really empty and it's mainly students. With public transit, we want to make sure shuttles are running more frequently around campus. We want to make sure every bus stop is covered with a bench. Some of them aren't. We also want to make sure that there's crosswalks by these bus stops. I know by the business school there isn't one directly across, and just little things like that don't make sense, because we're going to prioritize both public transit and parking for students that do both. As myself, I take the bus every day, but I also drive every day. And to wrap up, pass it to Chloe. We really want to restructure ASUU, really look at what's working, what's not, really make sure that we are the student government, we're one of the largest groups on campus, really make sure that it's working for you. And finally, we want to look at how can we revamp the HRE housing application process to make sure that if you're a freshman coming on campus, you will get housing. This year, we had some out-of-state freshmen having to live off campus, and that's not fair, that's not right.
Okay, so two of the main areas that I'm really interested in are both safety and sustainability. Okay, well, safety and sustainability.
Okay, the second question is, what are some ideas you have to better facilitate communication with the president and the student body? What are some ideas you have to better facilitate communication with the presidency and student body? And O'Leary, would you like to start, and then we'll just work our way back? Perfect.
Sure. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. That's a really great question because the student body president, if elected, is the student voice. It's one of the only offices on campus that is elected by every student, grad students. If you are a Utah student, you get to vote. And so really, there's been a disconnect there, and we need to change that. And I recognize that as something our platform's really talked about. One thing we really want to implement is a couple things. One, we want to do monthly town halls. This is something that's kind of been talked about, it's been done at other places, but really making sure that we are out and about with students, working with different clubs, going to events, making sure that we have provided a space that students can come and talk to us, that we can go meet with them, that we can let students know what we're doing. I want to implement also a weekly update, an ASUU update. I know this year, I love that the marketing team's done it's called ASUU ASMR. You should check it out if you haven't. It's really, really great. But really doing fun updates like that where students can know what we're doing, what's going on. Because if you don't know what your student government's doing, if you don't know we have a student government, then what's the point? Another thing we really want to do is an open door policy. And that's two faceted. One facet of that is we're going to make sure that we have published office hours, that we are in our offices in the ASUU suite in the union. It's in the student involvement wing. If you don't know, please stop by at the ASU office. But really making sure that we are there, students know we're there, and we're willing to drop everything and meet with you at any time, because that's the whole purpose. The other facet of that is really reaching out to clubs, reaching out to student groups, reaching out to those that are speaking for students around campus. And if they want us to come talk, if they want to come talk to us, just making sure that we're in a constant dialogue with them to make sure that we are uplifting their voice, we are listening to them, and if a student has a problem, if a student club has a problem, if there's something going on that we don't know about, we need to be aware of that. Yeah, Chloe.
Along with that, we also want to increase the knowledge of ASUU in general. One of the main issues is that people don't really know that ASUU exists. They don't really know their leaders. So we want to be able to reach out to people personally and directly, different groups, go talk to whoever it may be, whatever it may be, about anything, and have them feel comfortable coming to us and have them feel comfortable for us to go to them.
And one thing my administration will bring back, if elected or work to bring back, is having all legislative meetings live streamed on Zoom or YouTube. That was something put in place during COVID, and I know right now a lot of students still use online resources. I'm in an online class. Other students feel more comfortable in online class. Some students are working, and that's what they have to do. So really making sure that there's an online option for students to see what their legislators are doing, that's so, so important. Thank you. Oh, Parker? Yeah.
Another way in which I think that the presidency could do a good job of engaging with the student body is I would just directly table on campus. I would like to just set up a table outside the library or something like that and say, hey, I'm the Vice President of Student Relations. Please talk to me about any concerns that you have or anything you want to know. So I think that's another simple way that we can engage the student body.
Absolutely. So I'll start this question off. There are definitely several ways that we can better facilitate communication between our presidency and the student body as a whole. The first one is intentional student outreach. And so our administration will take a proactive approach by reaching out to students directly and attending student-led events just as we have throughout the entirety of our campaign. The narrative of an open door policy, I also want to mention, is quite harmful because it causes folks and it implies that folks have to come into these spaces that they're uncomfortable with in order to have their voices be heard. We want to make sure we're switching that narrative and being cognizant of the power dynamics that exist and ensure that we're meeting these students where they're most comfortable in the places that they feel the best so that we can ultimately better serve them as a student government. The next one is creating a humanizing social media presence. And so our administration will leverage our current social media platforms to ensure that all of our students are being reached directly. Along with that, making sure we're sharing or continual updates for students in a manner that is overall fun to engage with and is interactive. I feel like that's something that we've taken, especially with our campaign efforts and marketing, is making sure that we're humanizing ourselves, making sure people are understanding that we are students, and making sure that ASU overall is just more digestible and approachable to the everyday student. The next one is ASU All. So this was kind of spearheaded this past year, but to be quite frank, it was too formal, and it was not really appealing for students. And so along with that, we want to just make sure that this space is an incredible opportunity for collaboration and fostering that collaboration within student leaders who are a part of ASUU. And so in order to make sure that these student leaders are, doing the best that they can in the roles that they possess, we need to make sure that this space is something that is productive and that is collaborative, that will ultimately ensure that students are excited to come to these meetings and that they can feel like they can take away something tangible and enhance their student leadership experience within ASUU. Next is the Student Leadership Council. This is particular for my role as Vice President of Student Relations. And so this group, for many of you who know, is comprised of student leaders across campus, and it's an amazing opportunity for collaboration with student leadership and involvement, with ASUU, and with registered student organizations across campus. And so, to be quite frank, however, right now, this council and this meeting is not as effective as it could be, and there's not a lot of follow-through that comes with it. And so with my past and current involvement experiences and the connections that I've made along the way, I will ensure that this meeting and that this council is something that is productive and something that these student leaders can come to and really have that tangible change that they can create for students across campus. Overall, a combination of these ideas and others, obviously this is an ever-changing list, will help foster a more collaborative and open relationship between the presidency and the student body.
Something that I want to open with for this question is recognizing that currently ASUU and the presidency as a whole is not an accessible environment for many students. It is difficult to understand what the structures of ASU are, who your representatives are, understanding what resources are available for you. As it stands, ASUU is a student bureaucracy. It's the three of us. We pride ourselves on our experiences outside of ASUU, and we believe that it's important to bring in a new perspective on what it means to communicate with the student body and to relate to the experiences of others. I think that we've each been highly invested in working with student organizations on campus, and we've built the relationships, and we've seen how difficult it is sometimes for students to connect with their student government. So this has been a high priority list for us. First, I think that we're wanting to work on a student leader forum. This forum will be a monthly council where student leaders across campus can come and speak about the issues that they'd like to see. And this is what's most important is we're going to have touchback moments with these students. We're going to make sure we're updating on what their initiatives are and what we're trying to do. We want to make sure that we're being transparent about how we're accomplishing the initiatives that students are wanting us to put in place. Furthermore, we want to comment on the idea of reaching out to students. We think it's very, very important that we are making sure that ASUU and the presidency is making the initiative to reach out to students, but we also want to note that it's important that we are being invited to these spaces as well. We believe that it's also harmful for ASUU to assume that they have the right to go into other student organization spaces and speak for them on the student government level without their permission. We need to make sure that we are working hand in hand with these organizations and with their support and with their initiatives as our primary focus.
And to add on to that, many student organizations, students have already felt like they've been hurt from ASU in the past. This is to the lack of trust and transparency that ASU has given them in the past. Our goal is to also try to meet in their space and not have them necessarily meet, in the back of a room where it feels dark and it feels a little bit more of a, I have power and you're just coming talking to me with your problems and here's the solution. Our goal is to go to their space once invited and ask them, what's your problem? What's your solution you have for them? And letting them have the solution and problem and know their changes together. Our goal is not to amplify and make the changes that ASU has done in the past before, where they think 3 people are enough to make those changes, but to really bring in a new idea, new set of students, and hire within outside of the ASU to make sure every student on campus is heard.
Perfect. Question 3. What do you anticipate to be the biggest challenge of serving as a student body presidency? And what have you done to prepare yourself for this role?
And then Karabegovich, take it whenever you're ready.
The obvious challenge that most student leaders face, not just within ASU and the presidency, but as student leaders, and something that the three of us have faced before with our roles, is time. Of course, 1 year is not enough time to complete every single idea that you may have, and we are cognizant of that, and we have had experience in that, and we recognize that time constraints are real, and that there's something that we have to plan around, and that's why we have already started our outreach and our planning of the initiatives that we want to take. We believe that the work has to be started now rather than in August to get these initiatives completed and to build the relationships that are necessary to make sure that we're actually amplifying student voices on campus. And furthermore, I think that unpredictability is something that will always be a challenge in this role. Events will happen that you did not expect, and we need to be able to act quickly and understand that, react to what the students need, and be cognizant that sometimes 3 people cannot represent everything that the university needs or the student body wants, and that we need to be working more quickly in times of crisis with student organizations and the initiatives that students have started themselves. Finally, we think that it's one of the challenges that we've seen ASU struggle with before, and one of the challenges that we want to break is bringing diverse thought into the organization itself. ASU currently has had a lot of dovetailing of students who have started within the organization their first year, and they continue through it for the rest of their college experience. That does not allow for our student government to have different perspectives and new ideas into the initiatives that they're trying to take. We believe that we need to break down this barrier that currently stands in students recognizing that this is an organization that they can join in their second, their third, or their fourth year. It's not something that they have to be part of FYC once they get started, and that's the only way that they can be a part of changing their student government and their campus. Would you guys like to add anything to that? Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so our ticket has a combined total of 8 years of experience in ASU. So we've worked under 3 different administrations and have really seen that a large percentage of the role in leading this organization is dealing with the unexpected. So in my role as Senate Chair, which has been argued as the most translatable position in ASU to the presidency, Ravi's role as Campus Events Board Associate Director, whose 18% of the budget goes to, and Giovanni's role as First Year Council Associate Director and Marketing Associate Director. We've been involved in different areas, in the core areas of ASU, and so we bring a unique perspective and experience. And in these roles, we've committed to them and have made tangible impact in them, and not just utilized the role just as like a I don't know, thing that we can say. We've put free menstrual products in men's, women's, and gender-neutral restrooms. We've put free printing for students. Ravi is programming with fun and educational experiences like Elizabeth Smart. Giovanni, working with first years to encourage them to continue running. And when making decisions with the unexpected and steering the ship of an organization as large as ASU, you need individuals that understand the shared governance model of ASU and policies. There really is little to no time in trying to navigate the organization when it's your first time in it, because decisions require quick thinking based on experience when you are leading the organization in the presidency. We also recognize that within these roles, there's going to be a reserved seat for us at a table, right? And that is immense access, and that's immense power for a single group of students. And it's really not normal. And I think grappling with this and pushing against this ideal is something that's going to be hard, but I think we're committed to sort of molding that, to bring in a folding chair for students on this campus that are experts in specific areas that have personal experience. I understand, and we understand how ASU can benefit campus, through unique funding partnerships, but we also know that we're not experts on every single area and every single subject, and so we have to push towards this more representative student governance model. And I've done this within my position as Senate Chair, where I'm invited to multiple committees, and I don't choose to sit on those committees because there are students on this campus with greater expertise. We bring in the folding chairs, we make the space, and that is a sustainable model for advocacy on this campus.
Hello. Perfect. So I would say one of our hardest areas overall would be getting everything done in just 1 year. We have so many ideas that we're so excited to implement, and 1 year to do it all. I've already had people coming up to me with new ideas that they have wants and needs for, and so we have everything that we want to accomplish and more, and in just 1 year as well. Now, we've already set forth ways that we're going to do this. All of our ideas are tangible, and that's one of the main things that we're running on. Every single idea we've already put into different, every single idea we've already put into play has different areas that we've already gone and talked to different clubs, different U leaders, looked into different funding for. Everything that we are running on is tangible, and so it's just a matter of getting everything done in 1 year. Which the ways that we have already been getting involved and looking into ways of how to implement them is how we're already starting to solve that.
Yeah, thank you, Chloe. And I wanted to echo kind of the sentiment from the Karabegovich ticket, is that ASUU is kind of a big lumbering bureaucracy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of complications. Our Constitution is 70 pages long and contradicts itself all the time. And that's something we really need to look at. I think in the past 5 years of low voter turnout, past 5 years of people not knowing what student government is, as we kind of come out, we went through a pandemic that's still going on. We're kind of in a new era here. We need to really take a hard look at student government and go, look, what are we supposed to be doing here? What is our main role and what is our job? Our job is to serve students, make their voices heard, and address the real issues on campus. I think right now the current model we have is not sustainable. I don't think it's working, and that's okay to say. We need to acknowledge when there's problems, and the first step in doing that is saying, look, we have a problem. Something's not working. Let's go out there and fix it. I think that's something that we'd have to say is if we were elected, really changing that from day one, really navigating all the complex procedures, all the complex processes. I served as the chief of staff for 1 year, and that was my kind of official ASU experience. And really we had a couple goals of really bridging this gap, really bridging this divide between ASU and between the students. I think that's an ongoing process, and I think what we need to do from day one is to bring student leaders together in a student leaders council, bring all these different perspectives in, bring these different ideas in from day one, from immediacy, to really empower students and make sure that the student government is doing what they want, doing what we need. So that's probably a challenge that we're going to have to overcome.
Yeah, I think a challenge that student leadership faces is ascertaining what it is that their constituents want, right? It's really difficult for 3 people to know what an entire campus full of students wants. And this is something that we're already doing. For example, thousands of students drive to campus every day and complain about parking. Yet this has not been acknowledged, this has not been dealt with, and it's something that we're already doing. When we talk about addressing parking, we want to create a live parking system, make it easier for students to find these spots, and they're not running late to their classes, and they're not idling around campus, upping our carbon footprint. So this is something that we're already doing. We're in touch with the will of the student body.
Okay, the fourth and final question is, what do you believe is one current strength of how the current student government functions? What do you believe is one current weakness of how the current student government functions? And Alira, you start and work your way back.
One strength and one weakness?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's a great dovetail there. So one, I would say one of our biggest strengths is that I think it is a strength and a weakness, but we're one of the most well-funded student groups on campus. Every semester a student pays a student activity fee that goes into our budget, which this year was $1.8 million. It's a lot. And so really being really well-funded, having these institutional connections, I think ASUU has the opportunity to really, if energy is put in place and things get moving, to actually go make change, to actually make things possible. I think that there are opportunities there. And moreover, that with the student body presidency also, this is the only position, along with the Attorney General, that is elected campus-wide. Every other position in student government is either hired, appointed, or elected by a college. And I think that's really unique and that's really valuable. A weakness there, I would say, and I'm moving my hands too much, sorry. A weakness there, I get excited. A weakness there, I would say, is that we are so big, as I previously mentioned, and I would say that we need to connect with students more. While we are elected by the entire student body, less than 10% of the student body votes in every election, which hopefully I am excited by the 3 tickets running this year that we will get higher voter turnout, but really just at the very basic level. Making sure students are heard, making sure that we are actually representing students and representing what they want on campus. That's probably the #1 goal, and really making sure that with that in mind, always at the forefront, that we're not getting bogged down in bureaucratic policies, that we're not getting bogged down with long decision-making processes. You know, one thing that student government does mainly is provide club funding, RSO funding, but that can take a month to 2 months, and that's just a fault of the system. That's what the systems are in place, and I think there's ways that we can make it better. There's ways that we can make it easier for clubs and groups to receive funding. And we've talked to clubs, and sometimes they don't want to even apply anymore because it's just so hard, it takes so long, and they're taking personal risks in order to support their organizations. You know, there's so many different ways for students to get involved on campus that are not student government, that if we are so well funded, if we are trying to be a central hub, we need to make sure that we're reaching everybody, and we need to make sure that we're not just reaching people, but actually really supporting them, and that's really what's important.
Yeah, just to kind of echo that, I think ASUU's greatest weakness is its incredible red tape and bureaucracy that it imposes upon itself, so it's hard for it to really start its own initiatives, and that it'll also leak onto other student organizations. I've received comments from student organizations that they don't even want to apply for funding or reimbursements through ASUU just because the reimbursement process is so long and arduous and difficult to navigate. So I think that's definitely the biggest weakness that ASUU presents.
Okay, awesome. So I want to tackle the strength in one part and then the weaknesses in two parts. So a big strength that ASU has is that it's adaptable and buildable, which is honestly phenomenal. Not a lot of organizations are structured in a way that, yes, there's this rigid red tape, but this red tape is for when you are in that role. However, before you get into that role and while you are in that role, you are allowed to shape that government into whatever you want. You're allowed to have your own platform. That's why all three of our tickets have different platforms. That's what makes ASU great, is we're able to do that. Looking at the weaknesses, I want to tackle this in two parts. The first part is advocacy. So within Muskan's role as Senate Chair, she has seen this on a very deep and fundamental level, especially through the college student councils, which are those grassroots starting points for students. That's where students can go directly to know essentially what they need to say to, essentially they can go to these student councils and find out more about not only their college experiences, but what they can do to get involved. Additionally, ASU doesn't really support this. We've seen that. I didn't even know college student councils were a thing until I started interacting with Muskan, and that's a privilege that not everyone has. In addition to that, with this advocacy, we're seeing this lack of representation within ASUU. We're seeing this, and I've mentioned this prior, but we're seeing this almost nepotism of, if you know somebody that's in it, then you're going to be in it, rather than if you're qualified to be in it, whether you actually represent those student groups, which Muskan mentioned. We have to relinquish our seat at the table, not because it's an obligation, but because it is the right thing to do, and it is the thing to do when you know that someone else fits that seat better. Looking at the second part of that, I want to talk about that allocation. So like the O'Leary ticket mentioned, ASUU has a very large and substantive budget. However, student orgs particularly do not know how to access any part of that budget. And ASUU is not the heart of this campus. Student organizations are, because those are directly student-led, those directly feed into student lives on the daily. Specifically with funding, we're seeing that organizations are dying on this campus because they do not have the access to the funding that ASUU has allocated for them. Again, going back to initiatives that Muskan mentioned directly, we want to allocate a portion of the KEB budget that's directly for collaboration and co-sponsorship of these events so that these student organizations feel represented. Within that, we've already done the tangible work. We've already been doing the tangible work. That is why C on our platform of space is creating those streamlined ASU processes, because every student deserves to know where their funding is going, as well as every student deserves to know what they can do, not only to get involved, but to feel represented and heard. That is our job as student leaders.
Awesome. I think one of the strengths that ASU currently has is having those council members who represent every college across campus. However, one of the biggest weaknesses we've seen historically and currently right now is those students are not the best fit to be in those positions. We've seen historically that a lot of times these are appointed positions from ASUU. And so I want for you to ask yourself, what has ASU done for you? A lot of times students will ask themselves that and they'll say nothing, or they'll say, what is ASU? And if that's your answer, for you to vote constantly the same people back into office, that's where the root of the problem really comes from. Our goal is to make sure that every student council has a good representation and constant meetings, that every student within that college understands that their concerns are not only being heard, but we're trying to find a solution with them. We've seen in the past as well that once a person takes in office, that, oh, hey, my concern kind of obeys and it's leading the whole concerns of ASUU. We cannot constantly have that. You pay a student success fee that goes to ASUU. Why not have that voice and go out there and vote and make those changes happen? I'm not asking you guys to go ahead and vote for a certain ticket. Quite frankly, I'm asking you to just go out there and vote for the changes you want to see on campus. Alicia?
Yeah, I think it's, for ASUU, it has this incredible ability to use funding and its weight to create initiatives on campus, but the issue is that the transparency in what they're doing and how they're doing it is just not clear enough for students. That stems from the executive branch to legislators not reaching out to the students more frequently. We believe that legislators should have representatives should have a constant stream of communication with their students, and that they should be discussing what their initiatives are taking place and where they're doing it. Furthermore, we think that setting the precedent that only ASUU, people who have been within ASUU can handle the situations that are taking place within ASUU sets an inequitable precedent on our campus. How are students supposed to get involved within this organization if only individuals who have worked within FYC or been within a legislative role before are expected to handle these situations? We should make sure that we are highlighting the voices of all students on campus and their experiences. We believe that also having experience outside of this organization is a great way of increasing the transparency, because we've firsthand seen how difficult it is for organizations on campus to understand what ASU is doing, where their initiatives are going. And moving forward, we just want to really emphasize that we believe that students should be, and their organization should be at the core of what ASU is doing.
Okay. Thank you guys all for your responses. And again for your attendance. I'd like to thank our partners over at the Hinckley and the other boards in ASU that are helping out with the elections process, including the other members of the elections board for your time as well. It's all very, very much appreciated. At this point, I'm going to open up the discussion or the town hall for questions from the audience. And how this will work is just raise your hand, whoever I see in which order, as I'll call on you. And you can either address your question to a particular ticket or all three tickets. The tickets will have a minute to respond. The ticket the question is addressed to will have a minute to respond. And then if the other two tickets would like to comment on the same question or the same matters, they're free to respond as well. And to do this, we will need to steal a mic from one of you too, if that's all right. Oh, perfect. Okay, perfect. Before we get started, O'Leary ticket. If you have any members of your core committee here to step in for Chloe's place, more than happy to have them sit and answer on your behalf as well. But again, it's up to you. Okay, are you guys ready? All right, go ahead.
Okay, this goes to all the tickets. All of you guys have mentioned like increasing voter turnout this year in comparison to last year's. What are you guys going to do differently in your campaigning process and other processes to encourage further voter turnout and to expose more students to the idea of ASUU in general, but especially when it comes to coming out to vote and participating in student government?
Whoever would like to answer first is fine.
I can answer that question. So one thing that I've really enjoyed with campaigning has been tabling. I think tabling is a great way to reach students. Our students go to class, most of our students go to class on campus and are walking around and they see you when you're posted up at a table. So I think it's really important that we're tabling, and that's something that we would do if we were elected, is we would set up a table on campus and we would say, hey, elections are right now, this is how you register. Come ask us if there's any questions. Moreover, I think that the ASUU Instagram needs to be more vocal about tabling. I think or not about tabling, excuse me, about the elections. And I think that we just need to make sure more people are tuned in with social media.
What was your name? Hannah, thanks, Hannah. I think that's really that comes into a core issue of ASUU, is we need to rebrand and we need to revamp ourselves on campus. People don't know what ASUU is. People aren't excited about ASUU. And I think that's the root problem. If we're going to have people vote, if we're going to have people partake in this process, we need people to feel that their voice matters. We need people to feel that when they cast that ballot, that they're actually going to be making an impact, and that's what we just really need to focus on.
Okay, we'll do the same order. So VKW and then Karabegovich.
Yeah, so thank you for your question, by the way. That is super, super important, especially for us, especially with our marketing efforts that we've made so far. We are trying our absolute best and are succeeding in reaching student groups and student individuals that haven't been engaged within the ASU elections in the past. For example, just reimagining the way our marketing efforts look. We are making it fun. We are making it exciting. This Wild In with Wally segment we're doing on our Instagram story where Wisconsin dressed up as a kangaroo. Exactly. It's just like something to just make the students excited and engaged and ensure that they are understanding also what ASU is as well. Not only are we fun, but we're informed. We know what we're talking about. We have the experience to back up what we're saying. And so with that, I think it's also important to recognize that ASU leaders should not be put into a box, right? And so with that, I guess I've been involved in ASU throughout the past 3 years of my collegiate experience, but outside of that, I've been involved in HRE. I've been involved in the First Generation Scholars Program. I've been involved within fashion and business. I've been involved within the Goff Strategic Leadership Center. And so I think it's important to recognize that yes, we do have this knowledge that comes specifically within ASUU, but outside of that, we have such a broad scope that we are going to utilize. Thank you.
Okay, so tackling this question from 3 points of views. So one, we just overall, students need to understand how to vote. So sort of creating interactive and fun ways that you're teaching students how. So similar to O'Leary brought it up with like the ASUU ASMR, these like fun videos that are like, oh, this is how you vote, and like a nice tutorial that our student executive cabinet is actually participating in. And then sort of for us, we've done a lot of active tabling events, and during these events, we're having the active conversations of not just explaining our platform, but have you heard of ASUU? These are when voting happens. This is how you vote, and sort of educating students on what ASUU is, not just what it means like to be a part of the Karabekovich ticket. And then that sort of goes into outreaching to student organizations, and sort of still, when we are reaching out to them, having this messaging about what ASUU means and not just only talking about our ticket.
Alrighty, and I saw your hand.
I just want to tie back to like the question that was just asked about like how you guys are gonna like advocate the votes. And I know a couple of you guys spoke about how like some students don't come on campus, and with you guys saying tabling, not every student comes on campus or not every student uses social media. So what other ways can you guys reach out to those students that are not on social media nor are on campus, because that's very like sets a bias for those that are in this building and always walk through these classrooms and etc. So like what loop can you guys take to like
I think so that we're hitting that other demographic of students that isn't on campus or isn't using social media. That's why things like your college newsletters or like in your classes, like class announcements, really roping in faculty and staff into this push to get voters. Things like the honors newsletter, we can easily put a link in there, a QR code that links them to the website to vote, and sort of just making this a really big collaborative effort that isn't just from students.
And I think that it's important for us. Our philosophy has thus far been that, like, at the end of the day, we believe that every student should be looking out to vote, not just for us, but for any ticket that feels like represents them best. So when we've been tabling, we've been making sure that we're telling students that, hey, when you're in your class, go tell your friends to go and look about the other tickets. Go tell your family members if they're going to you. Go tell anybody that you know who's associated with this university to take a look at what our each platform's initiative is, so they can make a decision best suited for them.
Okay. Next. Oh, so sorry.
Okay, so first and foremost, I'm a commuter student, so like I relate heavy to that question, because the amount of times that I'll be texting my friends, they're like, hey, why aren't you at this thing? And I'm like, I didn't even know. And I am on social media. So That's the difference there. I am on social media, I still don't know. And your question of what about those students that aren't on social media? I think it speaks to that accessibility within marketing particularly. And also we want to highlight specifically those non-traditional students because frankly, caregiving students, international students, as well as those students that are simply here to just get things done and go home, go to work, all of those kinds of things, do not have the time to stop at a table and talk because they have things to do, they have people to take care of. So to answer your question directly of how we will increase this is going towards that accessible marketing, not just posting on social media. Everything that is on social media needs to be in printouts everywhere because these students are gonna be walking and they're like, oh, that's colorful. I have 10 seconds while I'm waiting in line in the dining hall. What's that? I'm gonna read that. And the only way to reach these students isn't by forcing them to talk outside of their bubbles of comfort. It's to make sure that these students have that accessibility across campus.
Yeah, I think an important thing to keep in mind when trying to market to students is what are the resources that every single student has access to? What are the things that every single student sees no matter what? And one of the answers to that question is orientation, right? Every single student when they come to the U has to go through some sort of orientation. So when we're advocating for this 1-credit orientation course, we would include information about ASUU elections. We would include how to vote, why it's important, where to go to obtain information about the candidates that are running, things like that. So I think that's something that could absolutely be addressed through orientation as students are all gonna go through that.
Yeah, and what was your name? Sorry? Irdihuda, thank you. I would really say, I hope I said that right, I'm sorry. I would really say as the university expands other campuses in Sandy and West Valley City, as we expand our partnerships with SLIC, transfer students with SLIC, UVU, Weber State, I think it's really important to keep that in mind when students are coming from different places, students are coming from different educational backgrounds and experiences, and people are different, so really making sure that that experience is really amplified is so important, so thank you.
Okay. I saw your hand.
Thank you. So what are things that you guys are working on? I know you mentioned your initiatives earlier, but what are things that are going to affect everyday lives of students on this campus and how?
Yeah, there are flashy initiatives and there are things that impact every day, and that's something I've sort of had experience with the menstrual products specifically in the bathrooms. So the wellness checks for second-year students, right? Our campus focuses a lot on first years and fourth years, and second-year students is really where they start to consider dropping out. Things get hard because there's not a support system there. So having sort of these 15-minute wellness checks where someone checks in on, are you walking, are you eating, how is your mental health, can we connect you to resources? That's something that can impact everyday lives for second-year students. The next thing is this Bill of Rights. I think having this accessible and concise information for survivors will be impacting everyday processes when folks are going through the Title IX process or going through that experience and making sure that experience isn't re-traumatizing it's making sure that safety is sort of proactive rather than reactive. I think the next sort of thing is the academic forgiveness policy, specifically for non-traditional students, just making sure that they have grace and space within their equitable learning and living.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's great. I think that's number one thing that has rooted our platform is everything we're working on is tangible. Really parking, as we mentioned in public transit, those are things that students, commuter students deal with and students that live on campus deal with every single day, which is why our live parking system, we want to implement that. Why we want to make more U after 3 spots, which has been done in the past, which is why we want to make sure that ticketing is only moved till 8 p.m., which has been done in the past. Moreover, increasing campus shuttles. Campus shuttles were brought onto campus a couple years ago, or how many years ago it was, to increase interconnectedness around campus. We just brought on, the U just entered into a partnership with those orange scooters, Spin. So really improving public transit in and around campus, improving transit to campus is something we really want to change. As well as, just decreasing costs where we can, such as let's implement a textbook exchange program so that we can try to make textbooks cheaper. Another thing, why do we have to pay for transcripts? I know it's a little thing, but it doesn't make sense. That's something that you should have access to as a student. So really looking at what are things that students need every day, like you need a transcript to apply for an internship, you need to park your car. So just really things like that affect you every day.
I think that's a great question. One of the things I think we can directly affect our students is helping with hunger. This year alone, there's over 32,000 pounds of food that has been donated to students who face hunger on our campus. There's a program called Swipe Out Hunger. There's about 420 campuses across the nation who use this program, where it allows students who use a meal plan on campus, who don't use all 3 of them or all of the meal plans they have in general, to donate that to a student who may need one of those. And on top of that, they also help come on campus and donate about 124,000 budget goes to different universities and colleges who are barely onboarding on the process. That money can be allocated to students who also want to go ahead and use food stamps. So for our non-traditional students who don't live on campus, who don't step a foot on campus, how can they get food stamps and how do those process help out for them? And the second thing is homelessness that some of our students also face. Alumni House currently works with students who are international, who puts them in housing. How can we get more alumni to house those students who might not even be able to afford those kind of housings, right? So alleviate cost of food and also housing for students who face those homelessness as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next question. I saw you, Krunek. Yep.
So I had a question for everybody, and then I had a question for the O'Leary and the VKW tickets. So for
Sorry, we'll just need you to ask one of those if possible. We want to give everyone a chance to ask the questions they like.
then O'Leary and VKW. So Jack, I know you're already in a role that's really close to the president, and you 3 have already been in ASUU and are already doing initiatives. So like, why do you need the role of the president if you're already being able to accomplish things?
I know, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. Zoe, thank you, Zoe. Yeah, no, I would say, I worked this past year as the chief of staff, and I never was going to run, honestly. It was something that it started off as, what are we doing next year? Where are we going to go? And I remember, I was thinking back to, I was never involved in student government before then. A couple of years back, there was a mentor of mine who I talked to and told me, if you want to change campus, you should check out student government. You should go get involved. Community service has been something really close to my heart for many years. My dad was a hockey coach. My mom was an elementary school teacher. I've been in student government in high school, in grade school. And really giving back to community is something that I really hold dear. And so I'm not running to be the student, I am running to be student body president. But really I'm running because I have been really lucky to find my passion, my purpose, and my people here on this campus. I've been lucky to have a really, really great experience. Is that I want to make sure every student has that experience. I want to make sure that every single student, no matter where you come from, no matter if you're non-traditional, traditional, if you're out of state or in-state, can succeed. And not just succeed, but graduate with the tools to achieve.
Thanks for your question. Yeah, so we have been in roles that are not in the presidency, right? We sort of are outside of it. But what the presidency gives is a platform. It gives resources to expedite the projects that we're working on. The areas of ASU that we've been involved in, and also outside student organizations, because we shouldn't keep us in a box, are really thriving and flourishing within ASU. And there's a lot of idea generation and execution. And so the presidency gives a platform, it gives time, it gives resources, it gives a team of people who can put their efforts into a collective vision and sort of expedite what we're already doing.
Perfect. You're done with your response, I'm assuming, VKW? Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, looks like we have time for one more question. Go ahead in the front here.
Yeah, this is a question for each candidate. I feel like in the past, maybe a lot of students kind of believe ASUU is a lot of talk, not a lot of walk, a lot of ideas that never actually put into action, right? For each candidate, where's, for you personally as a leader, an experience you've had that's displayed your persistence in getting something done? Yeah.
Zach, that's a good question. I think for each of us, it goes through the roles that we've had outside of ASUU. I think that we've taken already initiatives in doing events such as Abakar and I, we helped start the Friendsgiving for You event for international students, in which we worked hard to fundraise money with on-campus organizations, off-campus organizations, ASUU, and our own organizations that we've been a part of to build an event that helped give a dinner for over 350 international students and their families. We've already taken initiatives in planning these events and setting these precedences for ASUU, but also on top of that, our own work outside of ASUU has shown that we have Abukar has worked in the president's office. Alicia's been involved in the Office of Orientation. I've been involved in the Union Programming Council. We've had direct relationships built with university administration all throughout campus, and we've worked with them directly before to come up with incredible solutions for campus, and we just want to re-implement that within our role of ASUU.
Just do a speed round because we have such little time. So I will talk first on behalf of my experience as a first generation Scholars Associate instructor. And so with that role, I was able to spearhead and the first ever University of Utah National First Generation Celebration Week, which generated the engagement of over 350 individuals on this campus. That included faculty, staff, and other campus partners. I think it's also important to recognize that 25% of the University of Utah population is comprised of first generation students. So the fact that this event was able to take place is phenomenal and just shows passion and dedication.
Yeah, and then for my menstrual product initiative, we are the first university in Utah to have menstrual products in men's, women's, and gender-neutral restrooms, and rooting our collaboration in mutual understanding and trust, and also bringing an inclusive and equitable lens into projects and campus innovation. I think the proof is in the pudding with that project.
To kind of address your concern that people always come into ASUU with all these concerns when it seems like they walk the walk, but they don't talk the talk, right? So that's something that we were already addressing within our campaign, within our restructuring of ASUU, so that we can actually get done the things that we're proposing. More than that, I just think that with our whole team, we have so much involvement on various parts of campus, with Chloe as a student athlete, with Jack having worked at the Chief of Staff and at the Daily Utah Chronicle and different places, and I do research at the law school. I'm involved with the College of Social Behavioral Sciences. So we have lots of different experiences from all over campus that helps us relate to students as well.
I would say kind of personally, I think for my team, we've been really good at balancing and time management and really prioritizing. Like as right now, as Parker said, we're all doing various different things on campus. And I think what drives us forward is just our passion and excitement that no matter what issue it is, whether it's something extremely hard as a campus tragedy, or if it's something as we're going to rewrite the rules of Red Book, or we're going to implement these parking programs, we're going to get it done, and we're going to move forward with passion and excitement, and with students at the forefront of our minds. So thank you, Zach.
All right, everyone, I'll just say a few concluding remarks before letting everyone go. First, and once again, I'd really like to thank our ASUU and partners over at the Hinckley, as well as the candidates, for attending today and putting in the preparation time necessary for this event. It's by any stretch of the imagination not an easy task. Moving forward, I'd like to, do a little bit of advertising here. We've got the DBS meet and greet tomorrow, February 16th from 2 to 3 in the Union lobby. All three candidates will be there, all three tickets will be there, as well as staff from the Office of Public Safety, so you have the opportunity to interact with all of them as well. I'd also like to discuss voting here, starting next Tuesday through Thursday. So again, keep an eye out for that. We'll have marketing and everything out for that as well. It's coming up here shortly. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the elections process or any aspect, send them over to me. My email is on the ASUU website under ASUU-elections, or jjones at asuu.utah.edu. Again, thank you all for your time and participation, and I look forward to seeing you soon.